Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and you guys really did it this time. I kind of stacked the deck, and on my last poll, I had 3 Denise Klett books and the Gnome Sweet Gnome book. And I honestly, Birds in the Forest had been winning and come in second place on several polls. So I really thought that that would be the book that would win. So one of the options I put for the mediums was Neo Color 2s. Well, y'all picked the Gnome Sweet Gnome book and Neo Color 2s and Black Widow pencils. So I thought, okay, this is going to be wild. Let's see how I can use Neo Color 2s on essentially Amazon paper. But I think I figured it out. So challenge accepted. So let's see if I can pull this off. We're going to be doing Gnome Sweet Gnome. We're going to do, because it's getting close to fall, we're going to be doing this fall page. Let me back out just a little. I always hesitate to back out because I have so much crap on my desk all the time. But Gnome Sweet Gnome, this fall page with this cute little buckets of apples and pumpkins, just because I'm feeling a little pumpkin spice right now. And I will be using Neo Color 2s, and I'm also going to be using either a colorless blender. Now mine, I just used a blank colorless blender alcohol marker, and I fill it with 90% isopropyl alcohol. The reason I did this is because normally I use a water brush, but no matter how good you are, whenever you apply water to this paper, you're going to get a little bit of pilling. Now, maybe someone better than I am can do it, but I was kind of struggling with it. And I found that by using the alcohol marker to blend my Neo Color 2s, it really worked fantastic. So we're going to be using that. And then I'm going to go back in with Black Widow pencils and tidy it up. Primarily, my goal is to use mostly Neo Color 2s and then do some detail work with the Black Widow pencils. For example, there's no way I could do Neo Color 2s on these little flowers. They're just too small. And so I will be doing things like that with the Black Widows. But I didn't want to do the entire page essentially in Black Widows and just maybe do the bigger things in the Neo Colors. I want to challenge myself to be able to use the Neo Color 2s as the primary medium in this page. So I hope you'll join me. So let's get started. Okay guys, so I thought I would invite you on my journey to picking my colors. So what I do is I pull out my swatch sheet and I think to myself, in general, what colors would I want for my pumpkin? And I'm thinking that this English red, probably the saffron right next door. I think that's a good pumpkin color. I want kind of this yellow orangey, so number 6. I love this system so much. I don't know if you saw in my other video, I used to keep these in a bucket. It just wasn't working for me. This is so much faster to be able to do it this way. I'm also thinking, in addition to this, I may want a little deeper orange color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab number 10. It might be a little too red, but we'll see. Okay, so for the corn, I'm thinking I want a nice bright yellow, probably like a number 4. And I'm going to go with a white, which I'll probably just use colored pencils. I'm also going to pick a pale yellow here, this number 1. just because I want my corn to have some variance in tone. Now let's look at, we've got our bucket here. I'm going to go with all warm colors for this project. So I probably, you know, you could do something like a gray here. And I will put some gray tones in it, but I think I'm going to go with something more like Van Dyke Brown and probably like this burnt umber. So 30 and 33. And I do want it to have a little bit of some gray tones in it just for fun, just for funsies. So let's grab that number 40. This gray here. And then I think, oh, we need some red for our apples. And so I'm going to do red apples, and some of them will have some kind of this limey green color. And I encourage you, look at some apples online and just get a feel for how they look, what you want your apples to look like. I'm probably going to use a little bit of this yellow that I already have, and then whatever green that I use, I may pull that in as well. So let's take a look at that. Let's pick our red for our apples. So I am thinking that my apples will probably be this darker red, this lighter red, and maybe I'll swatch it out on a piece of paper and see how I like the blend. But I want a light tone too. So I'm thinking 14, 11, and 12. You know me, I gotta have all of the colors. Where is it? 14. I guess it's that one. 14, 11, and 12. My goal is to use the reds, oranges, and in my foliage as well, because it's fall, right? But then we're gonna need some leaves. So I am going to grab, just because these are nice fall colors, this olive, the olive brown, probably moss green, light olive, and ochre. I think that these will be good colors to have. So what did I say? I said 26, 27. And we might not use all of these. I don't know. Use what you have, guys. Like whatever colors you have available, whatever colors you like. Obviously I have all the colors, so I always have a more is more attitude. But I don't want you to feel like you have to have these colors in order to do this, in order to work along with me. If you don't have the colors, use your colored pencils to make up for whatever neo colors you don't have. But my goal is to challenge myself to do this. And what I'm debating right now is, in my pumpkin, there's a part of me that says this saffron and this orangish yellow as opposed to this bright color. So I'm going to grab it too, and then we'll play around with it. All right, so I got my wad. We'll set them up here, and I'll try and call them out when I use them. I don't have cards for them. I'm going to use my dollar store mat here behind it. Let's see if I can. I have my matchstick mouse. You know, I've been doing that page a day. So I have all of that stuff on my desk. So right now space is at a premium. But I do want to throw this in the mix for those of you that aren't really interested in the matchstick mouse. Oh, you know what? I'm going to need a flesh tone. I really kind of want to have everything at hand. So I guess we'll just go with flesh. And then we'll just see. I haven't quite decided on like their hat colors. A lot of times when I do these kind of things, I go with what I know. And then as I build on these, then I say, okay, you know what would look good here is this. I need a pop of color, or I want it to blend in, or whatever. So don't feel like you have to have all the answers right away. So I'm going to start with my pumpkins. This is kind of new to me. I don't usually narrate while I color. So if I start with this and then end with a voiceover, please forgive me, because my brain doesn't always work the best when I'm trying to narrate as I do things. But starting with my lightest color, I'm going to start with the corn here. And I'm just going in and applying, seemingly at random, some of the lighter yellow. I can always go over these with the darker yellow if I so decide. If I feel like my corn is reading too pastel. So with Neo Colors, you don't have to get into every nook and cranny. You can, and for this technique, with the alcohol blender, it isn't going to blend as far. So I do encourage you to be a little more diligent about filling it in. And then I'm going to leave some of these white. All of these up here are going to be white or kind of this pale color. And these down here at the bottom, darker. It does take a little getting used to the fact that, you know, these are like a crayon, so they don't have a good sharp point. If it is too dull for you and you just can't make it work, you can sharpen these. I would use an individual pencil sharpener, meaning something like this one, where you can capture your shavings, because this is 100% pigment. So you can just capture those and then put them in like a watercolor, you know, the little squares, and activate them and use them as paint. That way you get the most out of these, because they're not the cheapest medium out there for sure. But I will say this, price is relative. Now, if you're on a budget, price is price. But if, in terms of like, some people say, oh, well, these are really expensive. I have had these for years and I've used them on a lot of projects. As you're going to tell, when I go and I do this, like, look, can you even tell where I've used this? Not that I've done a huge amount, but you don't use much, so they're going to last you, I would dare say, a lifetime. Now, if you're doing a major project, then you're going to need to maybe replace one, like a single color. But really, they just last forever. Okay, so here's my alcohol, and I'm going to grab a paper towel. Kitchen roll, whatever y'all call them. I have more than I need here. But what you want to do is make sure you don't have any existing color. You can see a little bit of that dark. If I have that on my tip, when I go in and I start blending these light yellow, I'm going to end up with smudgy marks. So let's zoom in so that you can see better what I'm doing. But I'm going to go in with my lighter colors, and I'm just activating these. And you're not going to be able to tell a huge difference on the corn. When we do the pumpkins, you're really going to see it. But I can transfer this. See, this one's white right there? I can actually go in and see I filled it in with yellow. So you want to make sure, don't just go over the whole thing, because then you will end up with all yellow. Now, if that's what you want, that's fine. Corn is sometimes all yellow. I just want my corn to have a little bit of interest. So I'm going to go in, and by just blending some of these, those lighter tones are naturally there. So while I got a little bit of the color there, I went ahead and did those lighter ones. But you can see this one's white. We're going to leave it white. But let's say this one's white and I want it yellow. I have enough pigment on this tip to do that. So be careful when you go from your darker colors to your lighter colors doing this. You can always kind of tap off so that I don't get the darker colors up here at the top where I want them to be a little lighter. And I think I'm going to go over this one because I don't want too much white. And then I always try and wipe off because sometimes I forget when I go back in. So let's go ahead and let's start with our pumpkin here. I like to start with my darker colors. Now remember we talked about, here it is. We talked about this darker color. I'm going to use this, what did I decide on? 19. I decided on this English red. So I'm going to start with that color. That's number 19 on mine, that English red. And I'm going to kind of put it along the seams, down here at the base where it would be darker. And it just depends on how dark do you want your pumpkin. Maybe you want your pumpkin light orange. That's okay. Then don't use this darker color. But I'm kind of using it like in these, more of like the shadowy areas, so to speak. And then I'm going to come in with my next color. And I'm not going to use a lot of this color because this is that almost the red orange. So I'm just going to put a little bit, just for variance more than anything. And then I'm going to go in with my main pumpkin color, this number 20. It is, what is that? Saffron. And guys, I'm not getting too hung up on what color it is. I just want you to see so that you can look at your Neo colors, because you might not have all 84. You may just have orange. So just grab your orange. It's okay. Now, I kind of work my way down on my pumpkins, and it's all about, like, you know, look at a pumpkin online and see what you think you would like it to look like. I think that along these ridges you should have some of the darker color. I'm going to have my light coming in this way. So next up is our, which one's this? This is regular orange. So this is this color here. Kind of this light yellow. I could use this one, and I might. But we're going to have some light spots in our pumpkin, right? Now I can always go over my pumpkin again. So I'm not too hung up. I'm going back to the number 20 saffron. So kind of that middle, the main color of the pumpkin. Now, because we're using the alcohol and it evaporates so quickly, if you were doing this and you were using a water brush because you're using better colored paper, I am so sorry if you're out of frame. If we were using a water brush and better colored paper, this would be enough. But because of the technique that we're using with the alcohol, I need to put a little bit more in there. I need to fill it in a little bit more. So this is that orangish yellow, this number 48. I need to get some of those little squares made up for my Neo colors so that I can have it out on screen for you. But I'm going to kind of fill it in with just kind of going back and forth with my, between that saffron, the main pumpkin color, and our lighter colors. And then I'm going to go in with that English red, that darker color. I just want to add a little bit here along this lines. Okay, let's see how this goes. Oh, get a little bit of color there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my lighter colors here. And you can see it kind of blend out. But now, can you tell that it's not moving like when you use it with a water brush? It'll blend, and I can bring those darker shades up, but you need to pick kind of the color that you want, as opposed to if this was on water paper and we were using a water brush, it would move a lot more. Also, I am going to refill this so it's a little juicier. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just use a pipette and I just suck up a little bit of alcohol and fill it. You can see it's a little juicier now. We're blending a little bit better. And I'm just going to go over all of this. Now, when I get down to these darker colors, if I take these up, you can see I can fill in that little gap, which is fine, but keep that in mind. You may or may not want this color to be dragged up into your overall color. But look how nicely this works. Like, I can get into those small little details. And I can blend out all of those white, you know, the white space, the little white spots or whatever you want to call it. And then I can touch up all the detail stuff with our Black Widows when we get to that. Or be done, really. So are you guys ready for fall? I can't believe we're halfway through September. Yikes. I have a birthday coming up. I can't even believe it. So I'm going to be 55. Guys, that's a speed limit. It's not a birthday. That's a speed limit. But I don't know, this year for me seems to have went by really fast. And I feel like the older I get, the faster it seems to go. Can any of you relate to that? Remember when we were like in high school and like it felt like you were never gonna be 18 or 16 or 21, and then it's like you pass 21 and it just starts flying. And when you're raising kids, sometimes the days feel like, are you kidding me? This is taking forever. And then your kids move away, and the next thing you know, poof, you're a speed limit. I can't believe my grandson's over 9 months old now. It is, well, no, I guess he's 8 months. Don't get ahead of myself here. But he's just, every day he's doing something new and something fun. His new thing now is he beats his hand on his chest. His dad did that one time, just like joking around. And now when he sees his dad, that's what he does. It is just so cute. But guys, look how good this pumpkin looks. And we haven't even, like, how hard is this? It's easy on my wrist. Because basically I'm adding no pressure whatsoever to this marker. And if I miss a little spot, I can just, you know, go over it again, like right there. And then we don't have any bleed through. So we're doing good in that department. So I'm kind of excited. I feel like I've discovered a new technique that I wouldn't have discovered if I wasn't challenged by you guys. Because I thought I was being sassy and put all the Denise Klett books in. Because Neocolor 2s, I think, I tend to use them more on backgrounds. So in my mind, I was thinking that would be good, you know, because when you have first of all, those books are big pages, and then you have a broad open space. And Neocolors really lend themselves to that, right? So kind of crazy trying to use them for all this detail, but it's actually working out really well. So let's go to our next pumpkin, and for this pumpkin, I'm not going to add in that red tone. So I'm still going to use this. Let's go in for our darker tone. We're going to use the saffron, which was the main color in this one. So I'm going to make this pumpkin just a little lighter. I'm going to use this color as more of our shadow color. I still want it to be kind of a main color, but I just, this one has a lot of red-ish tones, and this one I want to read more yellow-orange. So we'll use this as our darker. I'm going to use my alcohol marker to get into those small details there. So along the edges, along the cracks, using the darker color. Okay. And then for this one, I'm gonna do a few little flicks and make this pumpkin a little. You ever seen those pumpkins that are a little more stripy? All right, so next up is this 48. So we use this saffron. Now I'm going to use this orangish yellow. And this is going to be more the overall tone. Now I can go over what I've already done, so I'm not worried about going over it. That's not a problem. I'm going to leave a little bit of kind of highlight spots. This was more of our highlight color on the last pumpkin. And the last color I'm going to go in is I'm going to do just a little bit of this pale yellow. And we'll see. I don't know if I'll like that or not, but we're going to try it. Just on these highlighted areas. And you can see I still left a little bit of white. So let's go in and see how it does. Oop. Wendy. Not sure what that's about. There we go. Okay. So I want to get off any of the darker orange that I have going on my tip there, because I'm going to go into these lighter tones and I don't want to contaminate them too much with those darker shades because I want to maintain that highlight. And as you can see, as I go along the stripes with a water brush, it would have blended out a lot more. I should probably go over all of my light first. That way I don't contaminate too much with the darker. And whenever you feel like you're not blending well, it could be that this tip is a little bit clogged, or it could be that I need to add a little more alcohol. Over time, these tips do get a little, I just think they get kind of clogged up with pigment and that kind of stuff, and I just add a little bit more alcohol and it seems to work fine. I think colorless blender like your Copic, I think that would work equally as well. So use what you have on hand. Now, alcohol's pretty cheap. I'm sure 70% would work fine too. I try and buy the highest alcohol content that I can. I find that it just works a little better. And sometimes I'll go over something and I'll think, oh, it didn't, blend as well. If I just give it a minute and then go back over it again, it'll work just fine. And I don't know why that is. I think with the Neo color, there's so much pigment there, and this alcohol nib, it picks it up, and it kind of clogs it a little bit, and it makes it to where that alcohol doesn't come out. So just rubbing it off will make a big difference. So what is your favorite fall tradition? Do you do anything? Do you decorate your house? Or are you one of those people that every season, you decorate your mantle with pumpkins and fall decor? Or does your house look the same all the time? When the kids were young, I decorated for every holiday. I decorated for the seasons. Now that it's just Lonnie and Ellie and I, Ellie doesn't care. She never tells me how cool it is. She doesn't appreciate it. So, I don't do it because it's just one more thing I gotta go drag out of my storage and put into play. I really like how this turned out with the little stripes and that kind of stuff. I feel like it adds a little bit more variance. So with this pumpkin, I'm going to do a little bit of the darker tones. Not necessarily the red, but this English red. It says English red, but this was more what I consider the browner tone. I'm going to add that along the ridges here. This pumpkin I'm going to put, I wish I wouldn't have put that there, but I am going to add a little bit of green. Kind of, you know how pumpkins can get a little green up at the, like here, almost like a yellow, I'm looking at the greens here. I'm going to go a little bit of pale yellow. Because I kind of liked how that was. But then I'm going to add just a touch of this, I think it was, didn't I have like a light olive? Yeah. Okay. So this is, this color here, this light olive. I'm going to add just a little bit of that. just right here at the very tippy top. And then now I'm going to go back in with the regular orange, just this regular orange here. And the saffron, which was the main pumpkin color. Kind of bridge that gap here a little bit. And like here, I covered over that leaf. I don't care. I can fix that with colored pencils. I can fix it when I do my leaves. I'm not saying go willy-nilly, but don't fret. I'm a big believer that these are our pages, and we should be having fun and experimenting. And don't get me wrong, I want my pages to turn out just like you do. Back to just a little bit more of that light orange, just kind of filling in. This is that saffron again. I want my pages to turn out, and I get stressed about it too. So this isn't me judging or anything. This is me just saying, give yourself some permission to play. This book is like $5 or $7 on Amazon. It can be replaced. We can look at it and say, yeah, not my favorite page. But the things that you learn when you give yourself permission to play is what is going to make you be able to have that page in the future that just wows your pants off, right? Because this technique, because y'all challenged me to use Neocolor in an Amazon book, gives me another tool that I can use on another page. Not necessarily because I have to, but because I go, oh, yeah, remember when I did that? And how well that blended, or whatever it is that I like about this. Personally, I am loving that this is super easy on my wrists. I feel like I'm getting good coverage. I might have to touch up a little bit here and there. But I'm eliminating the tooth in the sense that the white spots are filled. But I haven't damaged the tooth to where I can't add more color. Which gives me the ability then to go back in and add some detail with the pencils. And I really, really like how this blends. And by blends, I mean, you know, the look of that, it's hard to do because colored pencils have a pointy little tip. Where you put them matters. This, it's kind of smushy and kind of, I don't know, maybe a little more forgiving. Like right here, I'm not liking this line, and there isn't a lot I can do blending it right now. But I'm not too concerned because I can go back in with more Neocolor, or I can go back in with my colored pencil and even that out a little bit. But it's something to think about when you're laying your Neocolor 2 down. You might want to pay attention to stark lines of color stopping, because this is this pumpkin particularly is looking a little patchy, and I think it was because I wasn't paying as much attention. Spend a little more time getting that color off. But see how I had these, see these white spots here? So even though I had went over them before, I can come back in a second time and pick them up again and eliminate them on the next round. So just let that alcohol dry and then go back in again. You could do this with a, I would imagine you could do this with an alcohol in a cup with a brush. I really don't want to wet my paper, so I feel like this is a better solution. But you could even put alcohol in your water brush. Just be careful how much you add. Because even though alcohol will evaporate, it still wets the paper. And I feel like this is wetting the paper just enough to blend my pumpkin. But not enough that I'm really, see, I'm not wetting the paper at all. Alright, so for the sake of learning, I'm going to come in and see if I can blend this out a little bit better. Look how nice that looks already. Just adding a few more stripes. And I think the key is going to be, where's that darker color? Is it this one? This is that darker color. I think just adding some actual lines with that color will eliminate this abrupt ending I have going there. See, and now it doesn't look like a block anymore. Yeah, I like that a lot better. That looks much better. But just be careful of that when you do it. Same with kind of this color here. Let's take some of this darker. I think it makes it look just a little more realistic with kind of that, the little bit of stripy color. Just a little more natural. I also really like that touch of green up there. I think that adds a little bit of interest to our pumpkin, even if it isn't super realistic. I don't know. Okay, so we got one more pumpkin here. This is that saffron. So the main orange pumpkin color. I'm going to make this more of my main color. And then once again, I really liked how that looked, so I'm going to add a little bit of that green there. That was that light olive. And then I'm going in with orange. Saffron again. And then a little bit of that orangish yellow. This will be our highlight color. And then starting with our lighter colors. Tell me what you think. Do you like the green? You think that's kind of weird? See that little tiny hole? Just use your, pick up a little color and stick it in there. That's the nice thing about this is I don't have to try and put the neo color in there. So I just have a little pipette of alcohol off on the side there. And when I feel like my nib is a little plugged up and I'm not getting the blending that I once was, I just add a little bit. Just drip it on there. And it kind of dissolves all that pigment in the tip and gets us back on track. See how much better that blended? I'm going to add just a little bit of that saffron. Just, once again, kind of a little bit of stripes of color. Just because I personally like the looks of that, but you certainly don't have to do it. Okay. So let's move on. I think I'm going to go ahead and color this barrel next. So I've got our browns. We got our Van Dyke brown, which is this one. This is burnt umber. So we have our burnt umber and our Van Dyke brown. And then, what was this one? The ochre. This one. So those are the three colors I'm going to be using. Oh, and a little bit of that gray. So I think it's important to add a little bit of gray. So I'm going to take my darkest one, which is that Van Dyke brown, and I'm going to go down here where these lines are. right? Kind of adding the shadowy kind of thing. Just where our darker tones would be, where no light is getting, kind of under the rim here. Down these lines. And like the pumpkins, just adding a little variance in tone there. Not being too super picky about my lines here. Okay, so before I get into this, add a little bit of this gray. Alright, now I'm going to go in with my medium brown. Oh, that's my dark brown. And go over kind of the bulk, leaving some spots, some light spots. And then filling it in with this ochre. And by doing it this way, I just hope to give the wood some varied tones, because wood is not solid, you know, one color brown, usually. There are some nice woods that are. Okay. So let's see what we end up with. See, this is why I don't voice over very often, because then I kind of get lost in my coloring and I stop talking, and then you guys are bored and wondering what the heck. Plus, I can't speed up the video at all, which maybe some of you like the real-time videos. I feel like sometimes it's a little daunting to see maybe a 7-hour video or a 4-hour video. And quite honestly, some of this is repetitive. So maybe, you know, I don't like time-lapse videos in terms of, you know, I don't want them to be sped up at 10 times the speed to where they're not valuable at all. But I feel like if you like real time, I usually do mine about 2 to 3 times speed, depending, usually 2. The Matchstick Mouse one I think is at 3, but there's no narration on that at all. But I feel like if I put it out there like that, you can go into your settings and watch it at a quarter speed or at half speed and pretty much get it at real time. Because for most of us, we want to get the general concept, and then we kind of go and do our thing, and then we jump back in and, okay, what's next? Right? But let me know. I can't promise you that I'll always do it one way or the other. I kind of like a little bit of variance. It keeps me you know, just going back over these because I see kind of the white spots where it didn't blend well. Just going back over them again. Now maybe you don't like that gray. In retrospect, I think a darker gray would be better. So instead of just gray, maybe going in like with a Payne's gray or something. But I don't think it looks bad. I think it just adds enough of a variance. Sometimes I think that's important in a picture. Just that little touch of green just makes more interest, right? Instead of just a plain old orange pumpkin. But nothing wrong with a plain old pumpkin. Guys, do you and do what you know. So if you've colored a pumpkin and it's all orange, that doesn't mean it can't look good. Be gracious with yourself. Okay, so I'm going to save this piece here because I haven't decided if I'm going to do it. I might do it in that gray, but I want to see what the rest of the picture turns out like before I make that decision. So next up, I'm going to do our apples. So we've got our, let's get our sheet out here. We have our light cad red, our scarlet, this one, and then this raspberry red. And then I'm also going to use that same light green. Okay. So let's just pick an apple, and I'm going in with the darkest color. So my scarlet red. And they've already shown us where a highlight is. So we could use like that pale yellow for our highlight there. I'm going to put a little bit of the green with it. Just kind of over the top. And then I'm going to go in with my lightest color around that area. Right? And then our middle tone for the rest of the apple. Now on this one, I'm going to go in with my darker tones here. And let's see how this apple looks. See how my red is kind of going over that? That's okay. Once again, we always have our colored pencils to help us out, right? So for this apple, I am going to go in with my green and I'm going to bring it down kind of like that. I'm going to go in with my the darkest red along the bottom, under the beard. And then my next lightest tone and then my lightest tone over here. And let's see how this one turns out. Personally, I feel like that green is a little too olivey and not like lemon limey enough for me. So I'll change that on my next one. But see how I can make this red go up? So be careful that you don't overpower your green unless you want to. Because that red is very strong and it's on the tip of your so I've been using this color. See how it's more olivey? I think I need this color. Okay, so I have that more bright green. I'll go ahead and put that here on my apple. This one I'm not going to draw it down into the apple. I'm just going to be up here at the corner. And this apple I'm going to do the light red. Be careful when you put something under. You see that little line? That was from where I had my little mat underneath it and it wasn't all the way across. Now I'm going in with my darkest red and I'm just going to do some lines with the darkest red, and then I'm going to go in with the medium. And let's see how that looks. I'm going to get all the red off before I go into that green. Okay. I still have a touch on there, but not too bad. So quite honestly, I'm not a huge fan of how light this one is. So I'm going to go back in with my darker tone. And I'm going to make some lines. And let's see if we like that. Like that a little bit better. I definitely like that green a lot better. This one I'm going to go in with some yellow and then the green. And then we're just going to go with the medium red. And the darker red. So the darker red is scarlet and the medium is light cad red. You see how I had red on my tip? I kind of brushed it off, but I still had some on there. We can fix that with our colored pencils. I'll probably cover it up with the Neo color as well. So when you brush off, make sure you turn your marker because you might go like this and you get that all off there, but then at another angle. Okay. All right. The other thing that, if you buy these the way I did, they come in a 6-pack. So what I'm going to do is grab one. Okay guys, so I have a brand new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this before I put the red on there. And I'm going to use this one for my light color. And you can see it's quite a bit more juicy. So you see it kind of, it went through a little bit, but not, it won't leave it permanent when it goes through. Does that make sense? The other thing is you can buy nibs for these. So you can replace the nibs on these. Just like I would use a Copic nib to replace them. So this is the scarlet red. You could even go in with a darker red too. And here's our cadmium red. Back to the scarlet red. And I think on this one, I'm going to put a little alizarin crimson in this one, which is this really dark red. we like that. I think that might be the missing link here. It's just a little deeper red. All right. So I'm going to go in with my original one. I do like this darker red. I think it definitely adds some depth that was missing. So I wonder if I add it to this one, what that will do. So you can go in and add afterwards as well. And look at the difference. That really, I think, made a big difference on this apple. To me, that apple was looking kind of meh. So I am going to do it to these ones as well. Oh yeah, definitely improved our apples quite a bit. And guys, this is just how I work. I'm like, try it, see if you like it, see if it looks better, see if it looks worse. You can always cover it up with colored pencil. You can always throw this page in the trash. I mean, it's all the things. Okay, I'm liking the apples. I think we got all of those. So now let's go in down here at the bottom and let's get some of our foliage in. Now, I am thinking this bottom part is going to be like that burnt umber color. So I'm going to put in some dirt. I am also thinking this will be a good color to add in some browns here and there on our leaves here. This ochre color, it's just called ochre. We're gonna do some of this grass, I think is what this is supposed to be. And I'm going to add just a little bit to this. A little bit into our brown leaf. Okay. Oh, this should be pumpkin. This is brown there. Okay. These leaves I want to be more green, so we're going to go like with our moss green and our olive green there. So a big chunk of it will be this moss green. And you can see where this is supposed to be pumpkin. I meant to go back in with, you know, the alcohol marker and fill it in, but we'll do it now. Okay, and the next one is this olive green. Just going to add a little bit because there isn't as much of a variance as I thought. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to go in with that light olive. Remember what we started out with our apples here? I'm going to use that and kind of go over all of the rest of the leaf here. And you can do this one at a time, so you can like, you know, add the neo color, then add the alcohol marker. You could do it all, add all your colors, and then activate them. I'm going to put some of this in our leaf here. So I think that would be good. And a little bit of that olive green for this leaf and this one. A little bit in this one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and add my reds and oranges here. That English red that we used on our pumpkin, I'm going to be using that color, and I'm going to be using our vermilion. I think that'd be a nice orange. I think we already put the ochre in there. So let's get some reds in here. I encourage you to look at leaves online. I personally don't think it. To me, there isn't. You know, they're all different, so don't get caught up in it. But I do like to look at stuff. Let's see. Here's that vermilion, that kind of that orangier tone. And some of your leaves are going to turn out better than others, and that's okay too. This is that ochre. And that olive green. And you can do one leaf and see if you like it and then move on. Or you can just go like I did. Okay, let's activate. I think the blending kind of works in our favor here, so I wouldn't be too concerned about color transfer. I am going to go to an all green leaf here, so I do want to make sure I get as much of that red off as I can. And just know once you clean your nib like this, it's going to be dry. So you may have to touch it up with alcohol. Just see how it goes. But I don't think, when that red transferred, it actually kind of worked out in my favor because it's fall, right? Make sure you're on camera. I like that English red. I think that looks nice on these leaves. I'm going to add a little bit of that brighter green into this one. It's just looking a little yucky. See if we like that. Kind of the downside to these neocolors is, see this little mark there? It is easy to do that because you're working with these big old fat crayons, right? So what I'm doing off camera is just dripping a little bit of alcohol on the nib, and it just refreshes it and improves my blendability or whatever. You can see the white spots going away now. Because once again, I think the Neo colors, there's a lot of pigment and it gets picked up on this nib. Because you can see that nib changed from brown, and then I go in and it'll turn green, and then it'll turn red. So you know it's picking that up. And with fall, I feel like it it's fine because it's fall. Purposefully doing these yellows before I get into those greens there, because I was already into the browns. So have you guys watched any good TV shows? Tell me what you like to watch. I'm always interested in learning new things, because otherwise I get on Netflix or I get on Peacock or something, and then I can't decide what to watch, and I spend all my time just, no, I don't know if I want to watch that. Flipping through too many options, right? That's why I don't own like the 300 pack of Color, because I don't know, 300, that's, you see, I can't even rein myself in with 84. Imagine if I had 300. You guys would be wanting to kill me. You're like, no more pencils, Wendy. No more. 200 is enough in one picture. No, but I haven't really watched anything what I would call good. A lot of times I'm doing, like, I make the color charts for you guys. I will turn on something like a cooking channel. I like to watch those. Don't judge me. I like to watch the contestants, like the home cooks that have to do these ridiculous challenges. I just watched this one called Snacks vs. Chefs, I think it's called. And these guys have to, like, duplicate making Lay's potato chips or Ho-Ho's or that kind of stuff. And then they have to come up in the second challenge, they have to come up with their own snack. And I always admire people's creativity that way, because I can barely decide what to do for dinner, and this guy's making sushi trail mix, which personally I think sounds gross, but I'm not a big sushi fan. Don't judge me there either. But, you know, I grew up in Wyoming. We didn't have sushi. I was well in my adult years before I even heard about sushi. And I didn't grow up with seafood. And so, other than, you know, we did our fair share of fishing, so, you know, I ate my share of trout and walleye and perch and that kind of fish, but I never, like, lobster and scallops and tilapia and tuna and ahi and all that stuff. I never had that growing up. So I think a lot of what you like as an adult is influenced by what you grew up with. That being said, there are things that I never had that I did like, that I do like now, that, you know, weren't on the menu growing up. So I'll get back to that in a second. I am going to use, not this one, I want the brighter one. This lime green. I'm going to go up these corn stalks. I feel like corn stalks are fairly like a bright green. So I want to put some of this in there. Don't want to mix up my leaves here. So is this one, I think this one goes with that one. This one is the corn stalk. Okay, And next we need more of a green, I feel like, for those. So, I really don't want to introduce another color. So I am going to go with, I have to. I can't do those in that kind of green. I'm going to go with a grass green. So like a green. Ooh, that's really green, isn't it? Okay, and then, you know, because I can't help myself, I'm going to go in with this moss green and kind of tone all of those really bright craziness down a little bit. Kind of in the shadows, kind of in the darker areas, but definitely just tone that all down because that was a little, that grass green is kind of circusy. Okay, wiping off our marker, let's go and see what we've got. I'm hoping that these will blend into a reasonable green. I'm gonna look at corn. Yeah, it is kind of a lighter green. I probably shouldn't have put in even the darker green. Probably should have just went with that lighter green. Once again, I can use my colored pencils to change the overall appearance of this if I so desire. Ellie Girl. Mama's coloring. Ellie's beside me and she wants in my lap. Okay, I guess she just wanted down. This piece is a part of that corn as well. I'm going to try and add a little bit more of that bright color in before we blend. Alright, let's see what that does for us. Yeah, I like that. I can live with it. I probably, in retrospect, wouldn't have put in, I don't know, I kind of like the darker in spots. I think it all worked out okay. What do you think? Do you think we should have left it with the lighter? Or maybe not put in this grass green? Because that grass green is definitely... kind of like it with the brighter, you know, when I added that little extra, this lighter color. I think definitely improves. improves the appearance. But I think the variance makes a big difference. I think if it was just all white, it might be a little boring. Okay. So should we do our stems here? Maybe with the regular brown. Because they have brown stems, right? With maybe a little bit of green in them. So I'm going brown like on the inside, on the darker part. And then I'm going to go in with that that olive color, this olive, and do like this piece around the bottom and kind of mixed in with that brown in the stem. And then I think I'm going to go in with this light olive here, just to give it a little pop of color on the edges. And then we're going to go back in with our brown, because I missed this one. Okay, let's give it a go. Now, if you didn't want to do neocolor on these little stems and stuff, you could definitely just do those with your colored pencils. There's nothing to say that you have to use neocolors on everything. I think it would certainly be a good idea, because it's tough to get the neocolor just where you want it. So depending on, you know, some people are more particular. I tend to be a little loosey-goosey. All right, I think we're doing good here. So these flowers, or these, I'm going to do the same way as I did these with the moss green and the olive. So going in with the moss green on the majority of it. This is a little bit darker green, so just adding it here and there. And then going in with that light olive. To just give that lightness on the edges and the tips. Let's do this whole one. And I don't always color the page from the bottom to the top. Just so happens that I did this one. I'm also going to hit this leaf here while I'm... So light olive and moss green. Okay, and let's do a little brown for those stems. Guess while we're doing them, let's do them all. And I apologize because I know you probably, as someone that's trying to follow along, would prefer I did all of them at once. But honestly, I don't always see them all at once. So while I got the green on the tip, I'm going to try and do all these green things, and then I'll go back and do the stems. Just rotating my pen a little bit. Sorry about that. Guess I didn't shut my phone off. Wow, I'm really glad I stopped what I was doing for that. It was a spam text saying that my USPS package had arrived at the warehouse and they needed address information to deliver it. And if you look at where it came from, it was like Radio Leah something or other. It was, you know, I get so frustrated that this is allowed to happen. I get so many junk, spammy, and in that case, that's like phishing. They're trying to get me to click on a link so that, you know, they can hack my phone. And it's like, it's not okay because, you know, as we get older, sometimes we're not paying attention, we're busy, we're working, we're doing whatever, and those things pop up and we go, maybe I was expecting a package, and I'm like, oh crap, you know, because I order stuff from other countries, you know. Right now I'm waiting on the new Hannah Carlson book, and, you know, it's coming from Denmark, so it could be feasible that somebody's trying to reach me. But you just have to be so careful and really look at the email address, and but I just get frustrated that there doesn't, like, why can't they do anything about it? I guess there's just too many to track them all, you know, to fix them all. So, I don't know. But I am going to jump up here to the top. And we're going to work on these leaves. And then we can make some decisions about our background. Do we want that to be like a neutral color? Because most of the page is going to be in yellows, reds, green, you know, the warmer colors. So do I want to introduce like a blue sky, or do I just want to keep the background more of a neutral color? Sorry, that was just bugging me right there. And we'll have to determine that. But let's get these leaves done. I'm going to use the same colors. Once again, this is light olive. On these bigger leaves, I'm going to add in some fall colors, but on these smaller ones, I'm not. These are all just going to be the green, the various shades of green. And I will put some green in on these bigger leaves too. I've really enjoyed doing this page. I feel like I'm really boring to listen to though, because, like, I don't know, I never know what to talk about. I wish there was more tags. I do well with tag pages because the tags tell me what to talk about. We could talk about how Murdaugh might get a new trial due to the clerks being a busybody and being all up in the jury. If that's true, like, I don't want to make any false allegations. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's not looking good right now. Which would be, you know, I guess depending on, you know, how you feel about Murdaugh, you know, you could find this to be a good thing or a bad thing. For me, no matter how reprehensible you might find someone, I still want them to have a fair trial. And if they didn't, I feel like that's a problem. We can't just have the justice system for the people that we like, right? No matter what they did. No matter what they did. It needs to be a fair trial. And if what all the allegations are true, then there definitely was some impropriety and jury tampering. The sad thing is, I truly don't think it would have made a difference in terms of the outcome. But that really doesn't matter, because tampering is tampering, whether it changed the results or not isn't the point. And the amount of money and time, I mean, this was a 3-week trial, and people put their life on hold to be a jurist, and to, the taxpayers, I'm sure, funded part of that trial in terms of resources, to have it all overturned. I'm going to use that saffron, this pumpkin color in here, to have it overturned because somebody was talking to the jury and in trying to influence them, whether or not they were effective or not, is truly sad, I think. This is that English red. I'm going to add that because I really like the look of that on these bigger ones. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think for sure what all went down is going to warrant a new hearing. And I just can't help but feel for the victims. And by victims, I am also talking about the victims of the financial crimes that he committed, because a lot of those people, I think, their justice is going to come in terms of, seeing him convicted and going to jail. And they've got to see this as a setback. Now, once again, we can't have people not having a fair trial, no matter what we think of them personally. So, and just because he did financial crimes does not mean he murdered his wife and kid. I felt like the kennel video did it for me in terms of convincing me of his guilt. But I'm not on a jury, and nobody really cares what I think, probably including you. But that's going on in the world today, so I thought I would bring it up. I try very hard to keep politics and bad things off of my coloring videos, because quite honestly, we get enough of that in the real world that we don't need to bring it into our sacred time, our time that we use for our own healing. I know many of us do this as a form of anxiety reduction, or depression, or just to kind of get away from life and decompress, right? Because when we come and we do these things, we can allow our mind to just relax. I remember when my boys were only 20 months apart. So when Nathan was, my oldest, was like 3, his brother was just under 2, right? So you can imagine, you got 2 kids under 3, both boys. They went full speed all the time. And quite honestly, one of my favorite things was to go to the grocery store, which sounds crazy, But the hardest decision I had to make was what brand of ketchup to buy. What did I want to buy cereal? What kind of eggs should I buy? Of course, there wasn't quite as many brands of eggs as there are now, but you know, these were the hard decisions. And I never had to feel guilty about it because, you know, nobody equates going to the grocery store as fun. And so, you know, my ex-husband would watch the kids, laugh out loud, watch his own kids. But he would be in charge of the kids, and I would do my duty and go to the store. And oh, I just relished that time because one, it was just me. I didn't have to worry about the dog or the kids or dinner or anything like that. While I was there, I just had to make some really easy decisions. Nothing that was going to affect anybody longer than our next meal. And that's kind of how I look at coloring now. This is my time to get away. No major decisions. The biggest decision I have is what color of green am I going to use? What medium am I going to use? And I can get into the zone of doing a page I love to just turn on like a book on tape or a podcast and just listen and allow myself the freedom to not think about my life's problems, which, knock on wood, I don't have a lot of life's problems right now. But you know, what to do for dinner and, you know, what state the world's in and all of, you know, whether it's money or health or the people that we love's money or not their money. I don't worry about other people's money. But, you know, I worry about my mom and I worry about, you know, my other family members. And when I'm coloring, I try not to allow that kind of stuff to creep in. Now, that being said, because I'm a complicated being, I will often listen to true crime. I like certain shows on true crime because often there's a resolution and they get the bad guy in the end, because a lot of the shows that I watch, it's when they're all done, right? They caught the bad guy and now they're telling the story. I don't necessarily watch live news where it's like, oh, this just in, this happened. And, you know, that's why I brought up the Murdaugh thing. And I apologize if I brought in negativity to your space. But that stuff kind of fascinates me. And I just, I also like things that, like I said, that have a resolution. And I know that the bad guy got it in the end because it gives me hope that justice will prevail eventually. And a lot of times that you watch those shows, they're like, oh, you know, the case went cold for 15 years or 20 years and then this happened. And then they caught the guy. And, you know, it sucks that it took that long, but at least there was resolution. But like I said, I like those game shows because I think it's fun to watch someone win $50,000. And I think about how life-changing that could be for them. You know, they're often younger people. And by younger, you know, I'm a speed limit. So they're in their 30s and they're just starting their career. And $50,000 can really make a big difference in their life of opening their own kitchen, or opening a restaurant, or opening a food truck, or, you know, following their dreams. And I think that that's fun, and I enjoy seeing that. Plus, a lot of those people are really quirky. If you've ever watched them, they're really quirky. Okay, next up, flesh. We're going to get some flesh on the noses. If you guys wouldn't kill me, I would probably add a little bit of pink to those noses, but I think I'll do it with the colored pencils so that you guys don't lose your minds. I'm going back to that new blender just so that I don't get green in their nose, because nobody wants green on their nose. I will say I have used that one blender for a really long time, and it's probably time to change that nib, because I'm having to, you know, add alcohol a fair amount. Whereas this one, you know, you can see the difference. See how much more nubby the one on the right is? Part of that's because I'm heavy-handed, but part of it is I have used it a lot. Okay, so now I gotta make some decisions on my coloring. I'm gonna do like a really dark brown or black, probably that Van Dyke brown. I don't really want to introduce black into this. I need to figure out some, you know, what color scheme are we going with here? I'm really liking the cool colors. There's a part of me that's really tempted to bring in, so you have your split or your complementary colors, the green and red. Yellow goes with purple, and orange goes with blue. I am tempted to bring some blue tones in to this picture. The other thing that we could do is we could keep it monochromatic, and like here, do yellow flowers with kind of an orange hat, and then do like a red hat here. So I just have to decide, and I think I am going to keep it. The thoughts behind this when I'm thinking about this is, if I were to bring in those blue tones, it would really make these little gnomes stand out. So I think that's the direction that I'm going to go. I'm going to come in here with our ochres and our light browns and do their beards, and I'll probably do this guy with a little darker tones. So let's do that. So I have the ochre, and I have that pale yellow already out, and I have a yellow out. I don't think I want a yellow. But I like the idea of keeping her more blonde, so I'm gonna pull in this Sahara yellow. Okay, so I pulled in that Sahara yellow, and let's add that in. Okay. Then I'm going to go back in with this ochre and keeping my strokes kind of with the direction of the hair. Add these to this the darker areas of the hair. Kind of where it bunches up here. Draw some strands through right here at the curl. Okay, let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go in. I think this piece is part of the face, so I'm going to do that flesh right there. I don't know if it is or not, but we're going to do it that way. You see I got that color on my tip and I can drag it through. So I want to keep my brush strokes going like hair, because if I drag color and I drag it this way, that's not going to look as nice. I want to keep that in the middle pretty light. Okay. Now for him, I'm going to use that same ochre, but I'm also going to use the brown. Not the dark brown, but that burnt umber. So that's going to be my darkest tone. So I'm going to go in. So you can see here I sharpened it, and I've got that. Now I can just put that in a little pot. See those little things? Just put that in like a watercolor, like buy a little palette, just those cheap palettes at Michael's or whatever. Put that in there and then you can wet it and use it like a paint. That way you get every last bit. Of your Neo colors. But I wanted it just a little, it was really nubby, and I wanted more hair strokes with it. Make sure I don't have any of those little nips on there. Okay, now I'm going to go in with that ochre. Do the same thing. Now my goal is to keep this little piece right here kind of light. So let's go. So I'm just going to flick into those areas. Because I want some color in there, but I want it to be really light. I'm okay with these areas blending because I'm going to use my colored pencils to put my hair strokes in with those. So we'll go ahead and blend all that out. You can see how those brush strokes they're light, and you'll see they'll kind of evaporate as we go up. Or as they evaporate, it'll get lighter. And once again, I'm okay with these darker spots up here at the top, blending. I'm not looking to maintain the hair strokes, but by having them in a stroke form, I definitely don't get any weird, like, you know, blocks of color going the wrong direction as hair. I want to make sure everything is activated though too. Okay. Okay, so I chose Yellow Sand from the Scorpion set, and I am going to go in and do all of these little flowers. So I decided I wanted to bring the yellow up into the picture because this is the only place I really have yellow. And I like to do the small details first when I have something like this, like a hat or something, because it protects your details, I feel. I feel like the wax and the colored pencils kind of acts as a resist. And I'm going to do all of these the same color. And I think I've decided that I'm not going to bring in the blue in their hats and things like that. I think I'm going to keep just with the colors that I have. I'm always tempted to use all the colors in the rainbow. But sometimes less is more, as you know. Of course, you see I've used a whole variety of pencils, but really when you look at the picture, you read red, yellow, orange, green. So I haven't, even though I have a lot of different shades of those colors or tones, depending, I haven't introduced like purple and blue and pink and, all of the other hues. I've really kept the palette pretty consistent. But I used a variance of colors, of shades and tones to give the picture dimensions. As you saw here with the apple, what a huge difference that dark red made. Just that one simple addition, in my opinion, transformed those apples to the point where I don't think I'm going to have to use a lot of colored pencil to fix them. Okay, so I got all the little flowers done. I think my thought is I'm going to go orange here and red here in terms of, the palette or whatever. So let's talk about colors. So I used that yellow sand here, and I want to bring in an orange. So let's look at what oranges we have already. Ironically, we got a pumpkin orange, which is, a red orange, but I am thinking that I want more of this, more of a burnt orange. Now, I don't see a big difference between these three. This one's in the dragon set, scorpion set, and the skin tone set. So I say whichever orange you have, use. I'm going to probably just pick burnt orange here. And I'm going to come in centers. And then I'm going to come in here. Let's go ahead and use our Neo colors. Let's use that, just our regular orange. Because look how much faster it is. And I think her little gloves should be the same color. That's dirt. I think that's all bow. So we have one glove for each of them. Okay. And then I think we want to bring in like that saffron to shade the edges. And really just a touch of that vermilion on the ends and around her little glove. Okay, so going back to my beat up one, I have a little bit of water there. I'll have to smooth that out here in a second. Okay, so let's take that saffron, let's smooth this out just a little. Add just a little bit of touches here and there. Just kind of like I did on the pumpkin. I just think it, I don't know, adds a little interest. Certainly not necessary if you don't like the look. So next up we got to decide what color we want that hat to be. There's a part of me that wants to bring up this really bright green. So do I want the hat to be bright green, or maybe have the hat be red and have this hat be greens? It looks like I have a little bit of a sleeve here too. I think it's important in the cohesion of your picture to bring in the colors that you've used. You want to use them in other places on your page. So do we want this to be a red hat? And this to be an orange hat? That's kind of how I'm leaning right now. Okay. So I think we're going to go with, so we've got our cad light, our scarlet red, right? Our light cad right. Can't talk. And then I really like that crimson alizarin And then I'm going to put just a little bit of that raspberry color. I think that we're going to go with this alizarin crimson for our stripes, or our plaid, I should say. Okay, and then let's go with our lightest red. This is that scarlet red now. Just putting in a little bit of that as well, especially around the edges where the two colors meet. And then let's put a little bit of that alizarin crimson. Okay. I'm just going over the lighter reds first, and then I'll go back and hit that alizarin crimson. So what's the weather like for you guys right now? I know a lot of people, I heard on the news that this was like the hottest summer ever, which I thought was crazy since in Colorado, it's one of the mildest summers I can remember. Like, we had so much rain. I can't remember the last time we had this much rain. There for a while, it was like it rained every day. Now, the last couple weeks has definitely been hotter, but yesterday I think it was only a high of, I don't know, I shouldn't say. I wasn't out much yesterday. But it wasn't that hot, because I didn't have to turn on my swamp cooler or anything. So let's go back in now, see what this darker one. I'm going to add just a little bit. See the white? When you're using alcohol, you probably shouldn't have that much white unless you don't want the color there. If you're trying to blend it to give it a highlight or something, that's fine. But like in this case where I'm wanting red, probably shouldn't have big open gaps of red, of white. So where you live, was it super hot? Were you one of the people that had the record high heat? And did we just get everybody's rain? What are you guys thinking? Do you like the red? I do. Like the red. So if you feel like you missed a spot or it doesn't have enough red or whatever, just go back in and add it. I feel like I think part of it is my nib is on its last leg. But I'm going to try and limp it along through this project. Tell me in the comments what you think of this technique though. Do you feel like you would use it? Do you like your Neocolor 2s? I gotta say, they are one of my favorites. I haven't used them a lot on the channel because whenever I've put up a poll, Inktense usually wins, and I think it's because more people have Inktense. I would encourage you, and maybe I'll try and do a video just using, like I'll look up what the smaller sets of the Neocolors are, and I will use them. I will say though, I love using them. I think they're easy to use. I feel like you get a really good result. Come on. I feel like you get a really good result. And you just get a lot of mileage out of them because you just don't use very much. Whereas, you know, some of the colored pencils, you got to keep sharpening them. And so it's kind of like this illusion that you're getting something a lot cheaper when you, let's say that you buy a cheap set of colored pencils. Now, I understand. I have many times lived where I had no money. I didn't have any money for a hobby. I didn't have money. Like, it took all the money we had to feed the boys. you know, keep them in clothes, keep them in school, all of that. So I understand. So this is not me, you know, saying how to spend the money or whatever. But I have found with these that it's an investment of a lifetime. It's kind of like if you buy a pot and pan and you buy, you know, like a cassoulet or, you know, I don't own any of those, by the way. But if you buy something like that, I have some cast iron skillets, though, that have been handed down from the generations because they will last forever, whereas the Teflon, you know, non-stick egg pan, you know, we're replacing those every year. So, or every couple years, depending on how you use them. But this is the CAD, White CAD Red. But no matter how great you treat those Teflon pans, you're never going to pass those down 2 generations like you can cast iron skillets or a cassoulet, you know, Dutch oven. You just can't. They're not designed to last that long. And so it's an investment, and you make that investment one time and then you reap the rewards, right? So I kind of feel like the Neocolor 2s are like that. But when I was raising my 2 boys, I definitely, as much as I understand the idea of an investment, if the money's not there, the money's not there. So, but those are the kind of things that, you know, I would say try and get your family to go in on to buy for a Christmas gift or something like that. Maybe try out, you know, maybe buy them one at a time. I bought my Copics that way over, I don't know, 5 years probably. But every birthday, every Christmas, Mother's Day, anytime someone was considering buying me a gift, on my wish list was, oh, by the way, here are the Copic colors that I don't have. And here are the links to the 2 or 3 places that I bought them. And I would have links to the online stores so that it was super easy for them to know where to buy them and which ones I needed. And that's how I amassed the entire collection. But I certainly didn't buy them all at once. And that's kind of how I bought the Neocolor 2s, which is why I didn't have a tin to keep them in, so I had them in a bucket. And that's why I also have, I don't know, 15, I think I have 15 extra Neocolor 2s, because when I started collecting them, since then, some of them have been discontinued. And I hope they aren't the ones I'm using. I should probably mark those so I know not to use them in color alongs. But really, pick a color that's close and use it. I've really been seeing a lot of stuff on Facebook lately of people not wanting to post online because their work isn't good enough, and just really a lot of people just not feeling like anybody likes their stuff. And I think people need to understand that, number one, I will go days without getting on some of the online groups that I'm in because of time. Like, I'm doing stuff like this. If I'm doing this, I'm not online. And so I might miss their posts. So I'm going to take this same orange and put it in her bow. And it's not that I don't like their stuff, and I don't think they're talking to me at all, but I can only talk about myself, right? But I think people in general only have so much time. This is that saffron, this pumpkin color. To spend looking at things online. And if Facebook doesn't show me your post, I don't have the opportunity to like it. So sometimes I think people put it on there, and they put it on there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody's at work, nobody's online. I shouldn't say nobody, but as many people aren't online. And then they say, well, my work's not good enough, nobody liked it. And it's like, that's not how this works. You know, second of all, you can't, and I know this has been talked about to death, but I'm just a big believer that you have to, I'm going to give up on this one. You know what? I'm going to use the chisel end. You have to only compare your work to the last work you did. I try very hard not to compare myself to other artists. There are some phenomenal artists out there. The Chris Changs of the world, the Betty Hungs, that you see their work and it's on a whole nother level. Now, does that mean that I shouldn't do a YouTube channel and I shouldn't have, I forgot my whole other bow. I shouldn't post anything because I'm not as good as she is? I feel like I bring value to the people that have chosen to follow me, which, let me say, it's humbling, and thank you so much for following me. Thank you for subscribing. It means the world to me. I can't even tell you. But I feel like I can't not post just simply because I'm not as good as Chris Chang. Chris Chang doesn't talk to you. She doesn't tell you her thought process, and that's fine. We all bring something different to the table, and while you might find me boring because it's not like I'm really saying anything earth-shattering here, I do try and tell you why I do the things I do, why I choose the colors I choose, and how I get where I get to. So I'm going to use that vermilion just to bring in a little bit of a darker tone to this. I'm not a big fan of this chisel. It definitely moves color in a different way. But I'm going to bring that vermilion into each of these, into the darker areas. I should probably just do this with colored pencil, but I really want the majority of this project to be the Neo color too, just because it's been such a joy to find an option to do this. Okay. But yeah, I mean, now that doesn't mean that I don't watch Chris Chang and I don't see how I can improve, and I'll go, oh, well that's an interesting color choice, and I'll watch her do like 6 layers, and I think, well, okay, Wendy, maybe you need to do another layer. And sometimes that can really improve your skills, just making a little bit of a mental shift, or just seeing a technique that they use. I feel like this chisel just moves too much. It would be great if I was doing like that barrel, but I'm going to move to my newer one because I feel like it's just not giving me the results I want. So my point is look at your old work, see how you've improved. I encourage you to keep a binder or look back in your color books and see where you've come from, and challenge yourself. Maybe pick a picture you really like and color it. And then every year, color that same picture. And just see, this is Van Dyke Brown. So it's the darkest brown, like I did these stems and stuff with. And just see your improvement each year. That can be a way that you can compare yourself, because really, in our coloring journey, that should be the only comparisons we're making. Because I'm never going to color exactly like Chris Chang. I don't have the patience. Now, that may change over time. I will say that I have learned a lot in the last, I've been doing this about 10 months now. 9 months, something like that. I think it started in January. I have improved a lot and I've learned a lot. And one of the things I'm working on is slowing down, not being in such a hurry to finish the page, which is, I gotta say, it's a big challenge for me. But it makes a difference when you do it. Okay, so now I gotta decide, do I really want this to be like a gray, right? Or do I want, I just feel like a gray would be a little too jarring. So I'm going to keep it kind of in the wood family. I'm going to go with that medium brown. So the burnt umber and the ochre. So we're going to do some ochre. And then the brown. Sometimes I go on Instagram and I'll find an artist and they'll post a picture that I really like. So I go into their, into their profile and I look at their stuff, and I find that they really, let's say that the picture's in purple, and I look at their other stuff and I see that like 60% of everything they color is in those tones. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it's interesting to me. And we all have our own style. So like you might have decided, no, I want to make this gray. And you might have decided to color that hat blue. And I think that is what I love about this, is I love going on Pinterest and I see the pictures. Like I'll color a picture and then I'll go, sometimes before, but a lot of times after I color a picture, then I'll go look at all the ways that other people have colored it. And I just think it's so unique. I'm like, oh, what a great idea to do it that way. See, the chisel worked so well for that. It really lended itself to my hurry up nature. So I'm going to go in with the darkest brown, the one I didn't use. And I'm just going to put in a little bit of some darker lines. You want a few that go longer, right? I'm just going to activate those. And if you get one that you don't like, let's say that you're like, oh, I didn't really want to put that there, try and blend it out, because sometimes you can kind of just go over it a few times with your blending brush and it'll go away. But you can see I haven't really went through. Okay, so we have his little sleeve here to do, and we have her little hat. So I think I'm going to pick the lightest, this yellow, this orangish yellow for her hat. And by doing these leaves or these flowers already, that wax should act as a resist. So I don't have to worry about this too much. I'm going to try not to go over them too much, but I want to get in between all the little petals as well. Oops, there's a leaf there. Let me get that leaf. Just gonna take that moss green, kind of go in there. Okay. So now I'm gonna go in with the orange and just add a little bit right along this crease. And maybe in this dip here, along the edge. Kind of where it's shadowed here. Okay. And let's see if we like that. I don't know if we're going to like it. Might be not light enough. Clean off my brush or my blender. Alright, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about this orange? So I definitely think it lacks a little bit, so I'm going to go in with that saffron and deepen up that shadow here. And here. I can touch up these petals where I've kind of went over them with our colored pencil. That should brighten them up. And you can do this step with your colored pencil if you prefer. Okay, so I think I'm going to bring in this this limey green into his sleeve here. And then I'm going to take that moss green and just add our shading with it. Okay, so I picked up some of that red from the hat. So I'll just try and blend that out a little. So be careful. Don't do what I did. Okay, so all we have left is the background, which I think I'm going to do in a gray. I'm going to do this like a light gray. This one is, so this one is this color and I'll use it, but I think I want to bring in like maybe this color. It's 42. I really don't want a full blue. Okay, so we've completed the picture with the Neo colors. Now, I was going to go in with the Black Widow pencils and add in more detail and add more value, but I think I'm going to do that on another video. We're about 3 hours in, and I feel like this picture could be finished, but I think I'm going to do a video in the future to show the little things we can do that can take our pictures that are good enough, because this is not a judgment. This is just saying, can we do more? I think we can. And so I'm going to have a video talking about that and showing some different things, adding the white highlights, adding some darker values, things I would do different on this picture looking at it now. As I when I was editing this, I popped little notes in. Looking at the picture as a whole, I wish I would have done both hats in red, or at least the bulk of the hat in red, and maybe kept her bows in orange and maybe the trim of the hat in orange. I'm not a big fan of the girl's hat. I really like the hat on the guy. On the barrel, I wish I would have added more gray in that rim, possibly even entirely in gray. Looking at the picture now, I was afraid at the time that it would just not look right, but with the gray in the background, I think it would have really added a lot. And I may do that with colored pencil. I may add more gray in at that time. Overall, I'm really pleased with the Neocolor 2s using the alcohol marker. I think this is a fun medium. It's one I enjoy a lot, and it's really easy on my hands. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Look for part 2 in the future. And as always, I appreciate you all. I hope you'll consider subscribing, and we'll catch you on the next one.